Welcome to the Vector Garden. In this video, I want to show you two more of the plugins I use. When editing vector art, it can become quite complex. And in order to edit it, you first need to select it. And that's where the problem starts. Because you want to have certain criteria to select objects, and they are scattered all around the projects. And probably the layers, even if you have sorted things on layers, it might become very confusing. So you want to select them. And Illustrator natively is not very good at that. So I'm going to introduce a plugin to you that is quite useful in that regard. So let's go to the select menu. And there you see what's at the top is the default and then also saving the selection. Down here we have Astute Graphics plugins, and they basically select the objects they created. And then in here I have the menu items and functionality of another plugin. That plugin is a Select Menu, and it's by Rick Johnson of RJ Graphics. And you can see up here again we have default stuff, but down here it gets interesting. So what you can do here is select objects by their nature. So you can select the guides or the paths, which is quite broad, but then we get paths with attributes, and you can select open and closed paths and so on. You can select by basic attributes like opaque or transparent, if there are effects applied or not, and also if there are effects applied to groups. Then we get to some basic art types. So like the Astute Graphics plugins select their own art, this does the same with Illustrator objects such as groups or symbols, gradient meshes, and so on. And then we have some specials, because Illustrator has a lot of live objects that are still editable, such as image trace, live paint, and so on. And this AXO tool is another plugin by Rick Johnson, so you can select those as well. And different kinds of repeats. And also, and now it gets very interesting, you can select art by name or art with notes. You know, you can enter a specific name in the layers panel, but the notes is something else. I'm going to change to a different file like this one. Let's select one of those objects, and then let's open the attributes panel. And the attributes panel, you see, it has a note where you can enter a remark or something longer if you wish so. And notes are normally used for selecting stuff inside of actions. I have a video about that I'm going to link in the description, so that you can select something inside of an action. But also you can enter a note in here, and then you can use that for selection. So let's go to select object by notes and enter the note here. And you see it gets selected. In here we can also see a lot of those paths, all the same but different. So let's go to select object, path with attributes, and just select the open paths. And you see, now we have all the open paths selected. Now you might see, okay, I want to close them because I want to upload this to a stock vector set. So what do? You can go to object, path, but when you have just selected one object, you can go to join. But if you do that with multiples, then this happens. So let's undo that. In order to close them, you need something else, which is also a plugin by Rick Johnson named Toolshed. And that has a command that can close the open paths, like this. And now when we select the open paths, you see nothing gets selected. So I'm going to undo the closing because we have something else to say about this plugin. You can also refine your selection. So let's go in here and inside of here. So maybe you only want to select the unfilled paths that are open. Then you can just select the unfilled paths and then use a keyboard shortcut to subtract from that selection the ones that are closed. And this is configured in the preferences that you find down here. And there you can use this option, so keys can modify selection, so that you can use the Shift key to add to your selection and the Option key to remove. And then combining the commands, you can get to a selection that you want. You can also use these preferences to have elements that are not present in your artwork grayed out so that you are not tempted to even select them. Since the commands are in the menu, we can assign shortcuts to them. So you can go to Edit and then the keyboard shortcuts, and then in the menu commands, in Select, you see we've got all those commands. You can assign shortcuts to them. Just select it, enter a shortcut, and done. I'm going to cancel this. And also you can include them in actions. So let's do that. Let's go to Actions, and then I'm going to set up a new action here. And I'm going to close the open paths like this. So let's do it. Let's go to Select, Object, Path with Attributes, and select the open paths. And you see it has been included in the action. That's why I always keep the Actions panel open while recording, so that I can see what's happening. And now we want to close them. So let's go to Object, Path, and close the open paths. So this has now happened, but it hasn't been included. So let's go to the menu here of the action panel, Insert Menu Item, and then let's go there again. Close open paths like this, and now it got included. We can stop the action just like that. And you see you can include 2 of those commands provided by plugins and create a new action out of that. So that is really practical. And the best thing is Select Menu is free and Toolshed is rather inexpensive. So definitely check them out. Check if you can include them in your workflow and just tell me what you think in the comments.